What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Hills Are Silent podcast, where we chop it up about the games of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. We were out last week, but we're back. We got a lot to cover, maybe too much. So we're going to try to crank through this for you guys. Just a lot of cool stuff going on. Anyway, Mitch, let's splash right into it. So I've got some game pickups. It's begun, man. I mean, I took a break off for like a month to save a little dough, but man, so many good deals out there, I couldn't resist. But I heard that you got some pickups as well.
I did, yeah. Had a birthday recently.
Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah,
Again.
31 years old at this point. You know, it's the birthdays don't matter anymore because I'm over 30. So, but it was an excuse to get a couple pickups, so I will quickly go over those. I want to shout out to my girlfriend Claire. She actually went into a GameStop and tried to find a game for me and succeeded in finding a game for me.
Okay.
It is one of your recent pickups. And then shout out to loyal listener Swanee who helped her try and navigate the area that is GameStop and the topic that is video games. So she got me the Final Fantasy Zodiac Age that you recently picked up. And I really wanted to add it to my Final Fantasy collection that I've been kind of working on. So, yeah, thank you, Claire, for that. That was awesome. And then sticking on theme, there was a good deal on Target. Sometimes there's good deals, as I've mentioned. I went and picked up Final Fantasy Strangers of Paradise. Or is it called Stranger of Paradise?
That one has really intrigued me. Isn't that like a co-op game?
Yes. It is a co-op game, and it's kind of more, it's pretty, it says intense action combat and online co-op.
Yeah, I was watching some videos of that one, and it actually looked really cool.
Yeah. I told my buddy Swanee that maybe we could co-op it together since he's also a big Final Fantasy guy. So I went ahead and bought it on Xbox since he also owns that. But yeah, one I'm kind of excited to try. I have not played that one. It kind of flew under the radar a little bit. And,
I feel like it did. And
it was on sale on Target for like I think $30, and I had they gave you a like birthday coupon, so I just stacked that onto it with my red card. I think I only paid like $20 for it.
All right, man, perfect. Yeah, that's one. That's one I've been eyeballing for a while. So yeah, let me know how that is when you get around to playing it.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe in 5 years I'll play it. You know.
All right. All right. Well, yeah, man. I've added a lot to my backlog, but I got good deals on all this stuff, so I'm happy about it. But anyway, let me go ahead and dive in. So a lot of PlayStation 4 games. Man, the PS4 is slowly becoming my new favorite console of all time, because with the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5, I mean, just each generation, physical games are just slowly disappearing even more and more. And lots of times you buy a game now, and it's not actually the game on the disc. It's literally just the right to play it, essentially, the copyright protection, and then you can put it in your console, and then it actually downloads the game from the internet. Which is fine nowadays, but 20 years from now, when the servers are long gone, I'm not going to be able to pop that disc in and play that game, because the disc is just going to be, a freaking coaster at that point.
Yeah.
So I think the PlayStation 4 to me is like the last great hoorah when it comes to physical games and actually having the game on the disc. So I've been kind of going all out on PS4, trying to get all the games I'm interested in, especially now, because now are the times to get them. The new consoles are out, and as history always shows, once a new console comes out, the previous one, the games just get so cheap. That's how I got the bulk of my Xbox 360 collection, because I bought the games during that perfect window when people were just offloading all their old Xbox 360 games. With that being said, the first thing I got was Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes. So, and I got the disc-only version. So this basically was released as like a demo that they sold at retail before the actual Metal Gear Solid 5 came out, the Phantom Pain. Yep. And you can beat this in like 2 hours, but and I did play it back in the day and beat it before to get me hyped up for Metal Gear Solid 5. But you know, I just wanted all the Metal Gear Solid 5 stuff. I mean, even with the other Metal Gear Solid games, they typically came out with Metal Gear Solid, and then there typically was like a Metal Gear Solid VR missions or like a separate game that wasn't a full standalone game, but just some extras. So I didn't mind getting the disc-only version because I'm just going to stick this in my Phantom Pain case. And that was $5, so it's pretty cheap.
You're never wrong with the $5 holla.
Yeah, man, that's my sweet spot. Like, as soon as a game hits the $5 mark, and I can't say no. That's $5 for a game, even just a shorter one. That's always the deal.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the next one I'm way more excited about. If anybody's been listening to this podcast for the past couple months, you know that I have a love for light gun shooters. And a few months back, I picked up an old tube CRT TV, got some gun cons for PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 1, and I've been slowly adding to my light gun collection. And what I picked up was Time Crisis 1, the original one, for PlayStation. This one, I've been waiting for a good deal on this. It's typically been hovering around maybe the $30 mark, and I found a listing on eBay, real good condition one for $20. And I've got the second one, the third one, Crisis Zone. So the only one I'm missing is They came out with another one after this on the original PlayStation called Time Crisis Project Titan. But for some reason, that one is way more collectible than this one. So this one you can get from anywhere from $20-$30. But Project Titan, man, like $60 is the average price on that. And I've heard out of the two, the Project Titan is the worst game. So I don't know why that one is so expensive right now.
I love the look of those original PlayStation games and cases. They just look, I mean, they look nostalgic, obviously, but they're just very well done. They look great. Yeah,
dude. It hits me like right in the memories every time I pick up a PlayStation case. Because I remember going to EB Games, what was the other one? Babbage's, the original GameStops, and just going to the PlayStation aisle. And then, you just saw all these CD jewel cases in the PlayStation section. You saw them in the Dreamcast section because the Dreamcast was also using these jewel cases. And then you go over to the N64 section and see all the cool looking cartridges. And then everything else they had. I think at the time, those stores would sell much older consoles, which is a shame. Like, GameStop, man, if they sold generations before PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4, like if I go into my GameStop by my house, there's only PS5 games and there's only PS4 games, and I take that back. There's actually one small little shelf they have in the middle of the store that has Xbox and 360 games and PlayStation 3 games, and there's maybe a dozen games on that at any given time. But every other GameStop I go to in the Metro Atlanta area no longer carries Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3.
That's wild. Yeah, I just took my buddy Swanee to one of the local game stores here when he was up here because he wanted to, obviously check out the big Chicago local game stores. And I understand it, but like compared to like going to like one in Peoria or whatnot, like we go in these and they're all like covered in glass cases. Like you can't even like touch any of them unless you like get an employee to like open it up for you, which I understand because it's inner city Chicago and there is quite a bit of crime, and a game store would be a good spot to tackle. But they do, like, the one that we went to has everything. It's got anything from Nintendo 64 to original Nintendo to down the line. They had everything, and they kind of jacked the prices up a little bit compared to. I usually do what you do and kind of check eBay or check the sites just to make sure that I'm getting a good deal if I pull the trigger. I've been looking at a Twilight Princess on Wii U every time I go there, and the price is always just too high.
Yeah, and that's why I love going with you to Mega Replay anytime we're in Peoria for the holidays. because all the retro video game stores here in Atlanta are pretty pricey. They're either like exactly what you pay on eBay or maybe $5 to $10 more than that. But
yeah, they're factoring in that shipping that you're not going to pay.
Yeah,
because you're getting it conveniently there.
yeah, and all their overhead costs of having a physical
That too.
store, all that stuff. But when we go to Peoria and check out Mega Replay, I mean, Peoria, I've said this before, it's like, no, I can't even say no offense, because yeah, it's kind of, I'm kind of being offensive here, but Peoria is a black hole. Like, nobody comes in, nobody goes out, typically. It's, people are born there, raised there, they die there. I think you and I are the small minority of people who left that as being our hometown and ventured out in the world. But having said that, yeah, what's born in Peoria stays in Peoria, and there's a lot of games that were sold in Peoria, and they're all still there. If I go to Mega Replay and buy a game on the original Xbox, high chance it was either my own copy or one of my friends' copies. So that store is just jam-packed with so many old games, and nobody there is really paying high prices for it.
No.
So it's a smaller population, and there's not as much travel, people coming in and out. So yeah, the prices are actually pretty decent at Mega Replay. So when I go there, I love going there because I'm happily surprised by just how much stuff I can get from cheap there, in which these same games will be way more expensive at the retro stores in Atlanta.
My favorite when we go there together is I will kind of veer off because I like to go look at the Wii U section because that's kind of been my main collector game right now, or system. And then I come back and I just see Mike with this like stack probably up to here, and you're just like, I'm gonna go through them later, but just in case I get them all, I gotta hold on to them.
Yeah, man, and literally some of that stuff is like $2 or $3. So I'm just like,
yeah,
I'm like, you can't get. I'm sitting there like trying to tell Mitch like, you can't get these prices in Atlanta, man. Like this is, I came in here for the bargains.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's typically what I do. I'll get a big stack of everything I'm mildly interested in, and then whittle it down to something realistic. Like, okay, I really only want to spend like $40 or $50, so
yeah,
crank it down to what's really essential or what I know I have not been seeing in Atlanta, and it's hard to get. But yeah, anyway, moving on. The next thing I picked up is The Walking Dead: The Telltale Definitive Series for PlayStation 4.
Probably one of my top 10 of favorite games, right there.
So, and this is everything on disc. Season 1, Season 2.
Oh wait, it's all the seasons.
It's
That's
all
amazing.
4 seasons and all the DLC on disc.
That's amazing.
In one game. So, I mean, I remember these games were in seasons were coming out over years. And, I mean, they were all sold individually as full-priced games. So to literally have, like, 4 whole seasons, which I would consider 4 games in of themselves, and enough DLC to be another whole game. Like, this is 5 games on one disc, and it's just a complete story, a complete series. And yeah, I paid $15 for this, for 5 games.
Oh, I might have to pick that up myself, to be honest with you. Like that's like the heyday of Telltale right there. Like,
Yeah.
I started that Walking Dead series in high school with the first one, which is the first season or chapter is like one of my favorites of all time.
Yeah.
But then like I finished the whole Walking Dead Telltale series when I moved to Chicago post college. So it spanned many years.
Yeah, and also the fact that I don't think Telltale's around anymore. Didn't they?
So they just came back, actually.
Oh, okay.
They just recently came back. I think they're a lot of like former Telltale employees are like, I guess, came back together and they reopened Telltale, and they just released the first chapter of their new property, which if you've seen The Expanse, the show, it's a space show on Amazon.
Okay.
They are using that property, and they've made a new game centered around the Expanse universe.
Oh, okay.
And I've heard it's got good reviews so far. I love the TV show, so I'm definitely going to give it a try at some point. And they finally switched engines because their old Telltale engine was getting very dated by the time they were releasing some of their newer stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, they've they fine-tuned their craft. I played some of their earlier games, and they're rough around the edges, but you knew that they were heading in the right direction. They had good ideas. They just needed to fine-tune it. And then by the time they hit The Walking Dead, I mean, they hit their stride. They were just on a roll. The Walking Dead was amazing. I only ever played through the first season of The Walking Dead, but I also played through The Wolf Among Us, which was really good.
Loved it.
Yeah. So,
the Tales from the Borderlands, I think it's called. They used the Borderlands property and did that was really good too.
okay, I'll have to check that one
And they
out.
did Batman as well. The Batman one's really good.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's so many, dude. I don't even remember all the ones they've worked on. But anyway, yeah, I had to pick this up, man.
That's a really good deal.
And yeah, it was just too good, man. All that, and I love that. I'm a sucker for remasters, and I'm a sucker for definitive editions. If you can give me all the content actually on disc, that is just like, man, I love that. It's so much. So speaking of, that rolls nicely into my next pickup, which is Dying Light: The Following, which essentially is the definitive edition. They did release Dying Light, the base game, and then they came out with Dying Light: The Following, which includes the huge expansion, The Following. So I beat the base game on PC with my buddy in co-op, which is a very long game, maybe about 50 hours. And then we tried to roll right into The Following, but at that point we were so burnt out on it. Don't get me wrong, it was an amazing game, but after sinking 50 hours, do you really want to jump back in and then like start all over again with another like 40-hour expansion pass or whatever?
Yeah, that was me with The Witcher.
Yeah. So, but anyway, yeah, it's all on the disc. It's, man, probably like 100 hours of gameplay at least on this, and Dying Light is such a good game. Like, that's...
Yeah, it is.
Man, I beat both the Dead Islands, I beat this Dying Light, and I'm very shocked that I've not played Dying Light 2 or Dead Rising 2 yet. But I will get to those eventually. All right, let's see if... let's just keep rolling with this, man.
Keep rolling. This is my favorite... It's my favorite part of the pod, man. I love seeing what you got here.
All right, so I just finished Devil May Cry 5, which I'll talk about later. But that made me want to go pick up the DMC Devil May Cry Definitive Edition on PlayStation 4.
I've heard great things about that one.
Yeah, so I actually already beat the base game of this on PC years ago. And I think this came out maybe 2014, 2015. And it was great. I don't know if my memory is failing me, but I almost think that I may have liked this one better than Devil May Cry 5, which I had a lot of fun playing. But anyway, I had a Xbox 360 copy of it. But man, like I said, I'm a sucker for definitive editions. It says right on the box, 1080p, 60 frames per second, which is much better than the Xbox 360 version, I can tell you that much. I think that one's like 720p, 30 frames per second. And again, it comes with all original DLC. And so just to keep up, Dying Light, I think I paid $11 for that. Devil May Cry Definitive Edition, $11 for that. So, I mean, it's a lot of game for a really cheap price. So, yeah, still perfect time to be picking up PlayStation 4 games. Continuing on, Bulletstorm Full Clip Edition for PlayStation 4. So, again, another Definitive Edition, another remaster, as you would say, of PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 era game. And again, higher resolution, 60 frames per second. So you're getting the best experience. Again, I had this on Xbox 360, but it's just so much nicer to get the PlayStation 4 copy, which runs faster, looks nicer, and comes with all the DLC.
Is that the Gears of War devs who made that one? Or is it Gearbox?
It's published by Gearbox, but it's developed by People Can Fly. And they are definitely known for good first-person shooters. Before this, I was a huge fan of the Painkiller games that they released on PC that were really good. But Cliff Bleszinski was heavily involved in this. He was a creative director on it, I believe. So you're right. It is related to Gears of War.
Looking at the characters, they look very much Gears of War-esque.
Oh, yeah. And this game was so much fun. I beat this one on PC.
I did, too.
Years ago. And I vaguely remember, I think it was this game, as a promotion, they released... It was some, like, parody demo. It wasn't a demo of this game, but they released, like, a parody of Call of Duty. Talking about... oh, are you tired of the same old commercial games? And it literally was like a fake Call of Duty demo. And if you played it, you'd walk around as a soldier, and when you'd shoot your gun at enemies, the sound effects would be like boring, yawn, boring.
That's hilarious.
Like it was trying to throw shade on Call of Duty and be like, come play Bulletstorm, it's way more extreme.
Man.
Right. Anyway, rolling forward, and yeah, so anytime I get like a definitive edition or a remaster or something, I typically get rid of my old copy. So I mentioned already have Devil May Cry and Bulletstorm on Xbox 360, so these will ultimately end up replacing those in my collection. Next, Red Faction Guerrilla Remastered Edition. Essentially the definitive / remastered edition. And freaking love Red Faction Guerrilla, and man, I had so much fun playing through this game way back in 2009 on my Xbox 360. And
my friends and I played a lot of the online on that.
Yeah, I think I only ever dived into the online like once. I only played like maybe an hour of it. But the gameplay definitely lends itself towards multiplayer, which surprisingly this still has the multiplayer. What I find happens a lot is when these remasters are released, it's just the single player and they omit the multiplayer. So I wonder if anyone's actually on here playing this game in 2023 multiplayer on PlayStation 4.
Maybe.
Again, another one I had an Xbox 360 copy that I've just upgraded to the definitive edition. And again, both Bulletstorm and Red Faction were about $10. So just great deals, man. Classic games, complete editions, long campaigns. Well, Bulletstorm.
I would love to play Bulletstorm again.
What was that?
I would love to play Bulletstorm again. That was a fun one.
Yeah, it was. All right, so Tekken 7 on PlayStation 4. I have a small fighting game collection, and I'm trying to grow it. Tekken. I don't know, man. I have yet to play Tekken 7, so this will be my first time jumping into it. I'll see, man. Really, the only fighting games I play in the modern age is Mortal Kombat.
I was literally about to say, I remember coming over to your house back when I was a kid and watching you play Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, typically people have like a favorite. It's like, do you play Mortal Kombat? Do you play Tekken? Do you play Street Fighter? Or do you play Soul Calibur? So I also picked up Soul Calibur 6 on PlayStation 4. So I got Tekken 7, Soul Calibur 6. I did play a handful of the other Soul Caliburs back in the day. And but they're dirt cheap, man. Again, maybe like $10 a piece. And
as we talked about in a past pod, I really enjoy that Soul Calibur too. So
yeah,
I think you'll have fun with it. There's a lot of content in that.
Okay, nice. All right, next one, another remaster, which Zone of the Enders.
Wow, that's a really cool.
The Second Runner physical. Mars. Yeah, it's like metallic like cover.
A holographic Pokemon card.
Yeah, they went all out with this cover. Which is, and when you open it up, it even comes with a little patch. I'm like, okay, that's so random. In here, you can put on your shirt, I guess, iron it on. But
I need to know if there's anybody in the world that has put that on a shirt.
I'm very curious. It's just like a very plain looking patch. So
yeah,
it's nice that they had a little trinket in there. But the main reason I picked this up, so this originally was a PlayStation 2 game. There was 2 Zone of Enders games released on PlayStation 2, and it's a Hideo Kojima game, the guy who made Metal Gear Solid. And both the first game and second game were remastered and re-released on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. But honestly, the second game I've heard is the better out of the two. I had that remaster of the first 2 games on Xbox 360, and I tried playing through the first game, and yeah, it did not age well. It's definitely, you can tell it's a PlayStation 2 game, really repetitive combat, and I was just like, man, I don't know why they even took the time to remaster it, to be honest, unless they were just banking on Hideo Kojima's name and trying to re-release anything he worked on. which we'll get to later, foreshadowing. But anyway, I heard the second game is better. But the main reason I picked this up, as you can see right at the top, one of the few PlayStation VR physical games, and I'm trying to up. I love VR, but so much of it is digital only. So it's so cool to me to have a PlayStation VR headset and be able to get some VR games physically. So yeah, I think you can play through the whole campaign in VR, which is nice. All right, got a few more left here. Just keep it going. Lords of the Fallen on PlayStation 4.
They're coming out with a new one of that here shortly.
Yeah, so I wanted to check out the original one. This was like $7. So I'm like, yeah, I'm picking that up.
It's like more Soulsborne Lord of the Rings game, I think.
Yeah, that'd be a good way to describe it. But anyway, the two fighting games, again, were about $10. Zone of Enders, I think, was 16. Lords of the Fallen was like 7. And then we love the Xbox Kinect. So I've got a pretty good Kinect collection, but I'm always on the lookout for any games they release that were actually good. And Disney's Fantasia Music Evolved, as crazy as it sounds, got really good reviews at the time of its release.
It did.
And did you play this?
No, but I've heard great things about it.
Yeah, me too. So I'm just like, all right, man. If there were, I'm trying to get all the good, the decent Kinect games, and this was $5 for a complete copy.
Wow. Yeah.
So I'm like, give me that. All right, and last but not least, I ordered a copy of World War Z Aftermath for PlayStation 4, which is essentially like a Left 4 Dead clone. Have you played it?
I have.
All right, what were your thoughts on it? Is it any good?
It's okay.
Oh, dang.
Sorry. It makes me want to go and play Left 4 Dead more than anything.
It's one of those games where it's like you might as well just be playing what it's ripping off.
Yeah, but it's solid. They've had a lot of content to it too. It seems like you bought the definitive edition there, because I think isn't Aftermath like all of it.
Yeah. Again, so, I intentionally was looking for like a definitive edition version for it, which again I heard it has everything on the disc.
But with those games, like it's fun with friends no matter what. So if you're playing co-op with somebody, I'm sure you'll have a good time.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I ordered World War Z Aftermath. It came in yesterday. When I ripped open the package to pull the game out, I got Peppa Pig World Adventures for the Nintendo Switch. The dude accidentally sent the wrong game, like the way wrong game. So I ended up with some kids game for Nintendo Switch when I ordered a zombie shooter for PlayStation 4.
Zombies, Peppa Pig,
So I'm now the proud owner of Peppa Pig World Adventures on Nintendo Switch, which I don't even own a Switch. And this thing looks... Wait.
In 20 years, it's going to be like $600 or something. You're gonna
maybe. It's sealed. It's a sealed copy, so... Oh my God. Anyway, it was a legit mistake. I reached out to the seller and I told him, I was like, don't even worry about it, man. I was like, I got a good laugh out of it when I ripped that open and slid up, and then Peppa Pig was looking me back in the face.
That's amazing.
All right, man, let's keep it rolling. So speaking of remasters, remakes, what was it you were telling me about? Nintendo dropped a amazing bomb about something that's coming out.
They sure did. Last week they did their typical Nintendo Directs, and they were going to say they really were like teasing. They were just going to talk about games that were coming out within the next year. But then at the end, they dropped this bombshell that nobody expected, where they are releasing a Paper Mario Thousand Years Door, the one for GameCube that is probably the best one of the franchise, completely remaking it for Switch, and then arrives next year.
I'm loving this, man. I'm loving these remakes they're doing. They did Metroid Prime. I saw they recently re-released the Pikmin games on Switch from GameCube. Yeah, man, I'm pumped. They showed a full video of it on the Direct. It looks amazing. Like it's crazy what people can do with the older property of a GameCube and then just remaking it to look the way it's going to look now. Like, man, I am so excited to play this.
It probably won't be a day one purchase for me because I don't really want to pay $60, but it might be one of those things, kind of like you said with your mom, maybe a Christmas gift. I can try and get old dad to get it for me.
Yes, we are grown adults, but we still have loving parents that will get us a Christmas gift. So, man, take
That's right.
advantage of that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I'm looking at the video
go ahead.
now, and wow, yeah, these graphics are popping.
Impressive. Impressive. I mean, the newer Paper Mario's we've covered the one that I was playing Color Splash on my Wii U, and that one looks great too. But yeah, they've really upped the graphics on these Paper Mario games while still keeping the charm of it. And I'm
Oh,
s-
they just showed a scene where they had like a Game Boy Advance hanging on the wall. I wonder if that was in the original game or they're just like doing a
yeah, I'm
nod.
sure they probably put some Easter eggs in there, and this just gives some more nostalgia for the loyal players.
Yeah, this is fresh. So did you play this one on GameCube
I
back
did. I
in?
own it still on GameCube right now.
Okay, nice. Yeah, man, I was at a half price books a couple years back, and this was after I had just rebought a GameCube, and I saw a copy of this there for like $50, and I picked it up and I was like, man, I should get this. But then I was like, man, $50 is pretty steep. I mean, GameCube games, they were ridiculously expensive just a few years ago, but now the prices are just through the roof. I'm sure a copy of A Thousand Year Door is like well over $100 now, and because of that, I should have picked it up when it was just $50 at that half price books.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. It's anywhere from like 90 to 100 plus dollars. Yeah.
Man, yeah. Well, if I didn't get it at $50, I'm definitely not getting it at 100. So, oh well.
Yeah, thankfully I have it, but I don't have a case and manual, so I'm probably gonna just, at some point down the line when I have a house and I have more space to put things, I'm going to start buying just cases and manuals for the ones that I just have discs for.
Yeah, the problem is when we're kids, like we just throw that stuff out. Like we don't. We're just like, ah, whatever. And
I kept it all in my little GameCube, you could get one of those, where you put all your CDs in and you just
yeah,
flip the pages. I had a little GameCube one of that and I just had all my games in there.
that's the culprit, man. When you're a kid,
Yeah.
somebody buys you a CD binder, and you're like, well, I'll put all my stuff in here. And then you put all your games in there, and then you got all these empty cases, and you're just like in the trash.
Yeah, you saw me as I was going through my random box of that my dad gave me from from back home, and it was me going through these these little CD binders, and finding these random games that I didn't have any case for, or I had a case with the wrong game in it.
Yeah, that's what happens. That was your situation. It's like you kept the cases, but then somebody threw away the binder, or vice versa. Somebody throws away
Yeah,
the binder, and then, or well, I said the same thing. You know what I mean. You know what I mean.
I know what you mean. Yeah,
Yeah. So, yeah, that's how it goes, man. Um,
yeah, but super excited for this. Just wanted to bring it up because it was a really surprise announcement, and I'm hoping this means, because I know I've complained about the the games past the Wii Paper Mario have not been great. They've kind of gone away from making it an RPG and turning it into more of stuff that I'm not super into or kind of boring. So I'm hoping they use this Thousand Years Door and say, hey, this is the formula. Let's make it like Thousand Years Door.
yeah, absolutely. I hope it sells well. When you do get around to playing it, let me know how it compares to the original.
Okay.
Let me know
Yeah.
if it's just strictly a graphical upgrade or if they went all out and it's like a reimagining.
Knowing Nintendo, it's probably going to be a reimagining, and they'll put some cool stuff in.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Sweet. So, keeping on with that theme, another remaster was recently announced, and that is Tomb Raider 1 through 3, the original PlayStation, Sega Saturn, PC games that were released in the 90s, are being remastered and re-released on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. Now, did you ever play any of these original Tomb Raiders back on PlayStation 1?
No, but I think it goes back to maybe at Uncle Jim's. Eric might have been playing it in the
Absolutely.
basement.
Yep. I remember the Christmas Eric got a PlayStation 1, and I don't know if he actually owned um Tomb Raider or if it just came on like one of the demo discs. But
Oh yeah, very well could have been that.
yeah, I think it was on either way. He was playing it, yeah, in Uncle Jim's living room. I think it was hooked up to whatever TV he had in the living room at the time. And yeah, I was blown away just because that was the early days of seeing 3D graphics for the first time. And I'm just like, whoa, this looks incredible. And then he handed me the controller so I could play it. And it was so difficult to play. Like it was too advanced for my little child mind. However, I've recently gone back and replayed the original Tomb Raider. And yes, I was probably a little too young to be playing the game, so that probably why it was difficult for me. But I think more so the controls, they just were not good back then. So you're essentially it's like Resident Evil style tank controls, and
Okay.
you're trying to play like a platformer where you're going through tombs. So it's like platforming with tank controls. Oh, that is a
Yeah.
mind bender right there.
I'd love to like present that game to, the Fortnite kids of the
Yeah,
just to see how they would fare.
and they wouldn't do it. Games were harder back in the day, and that was for many reasons. One of them being the controls. And but it is interesting. We've said this before. Like once you play long enough, and if all games out at the time have that same control scheme, you're already used to it. But yeah, once you play any control scheme long enough, you will eventually start to get like acclimated to it. So one more remaster thing to go over. So you're telling me you're excited about
Yeah.
another remaster that's coming out?
I am, yeah. You talking about that jogged my memory that the Metal Gear Solid they call it the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1, which will have the first three titles. It'll have Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty, and then Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater, all in one collection.
Okay.
And I've never played any of the Metal Gear games, which is very, I guess just kind of missed me in that generation when they were coming out. So I'm excited to pick this one up eventually and give it a try.
Wait, what were the three games you said? It's just the first one, second one, and third one.
Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty, Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater.
Okay, got it. Yeah, another Metal Gear Solid 1, another classic from the original PlayStation. I remember Pizza Hut was doing a promotion where they would give you PlayStation 1 demo discs if you ordered pizza from them. And this is definitely a thing of the past, but all these old
What a
consoles,
golden age, though.
yeah, had these demo discs that they'd give out. Same thing with PlayStation 2, same thing with Xbox. Sometimes they'd come with like magazines, like official Xbox magazine or something would have demo discs. And the PlayStation 1, though, they really went all out. Everywhere you went, you would stumble upon demo disc, which was great as a kid because if you don't have a lot of money, and really, oftentimes as a kid, you're just playing through the first level anyway. So to get a demo disc with like the first level of 5 different games, it was like owning 5 different games. And I remember playing like fighting games on demo discs, and you're only limited to like 2 characters, but who cares? You're still able to play the game. So me and my buddies would pick the only 2 characters available and duke it out or whatever it was.
I think parents appreciated that too because they didn't have to buy you all these full-fledged games. Like, oh, we can get dinner for the family, and you can get yourself a demo disc, and
Yeah. It was the weirdest cross promotion, but I loved it. And at the time, I got one of the discs that had a playable demo of Metal Gear Solid. And again, I was probably too young to be playing that game because that was more of an advanced game. But I managed to
Yeah.
get through that demo as a kid. It took me a bunch of tries, and I always liked it. The graphics were amazing for the time. It was just, some games are really shallow, but one thing Hideo Kojima is good at is making very, very deep and complex experiences. And they're all
very,
challenging.
Yeah, and very, very strange stories.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, it really exercises your mind. Those Metal Gear Solid games, I've beaten the first one and second one, and the gameplay switches up. There's all these deep mechanics. Like, I remember Metal Gear Solid 2, you could hang over a ledge to hide from an enemy. But if you hung on too long, your guys' arms would get tired and he'd let go and fall. But what they don't tell you, which is very interesting, that if you hang over the ledge, you could pull yourself up with the up button. And if you held it, you pull yourself all the way up, but you had to hold it. What the game doesn't tell you, that if you just pull it slightly, your guy is literally doing chin-ups. And if you do chin-ups enough times in the game, it'll level up your guy so he can hang longer without having to let go and drop. So you can hang and hide from enemies from longer just by exercising in the game. Like, what?
Yeah.
The level of detail on this game, and it was a PlayStation 2 game. And again, it looked amazing. Man, they were just... Most of those Metal Gear Solid games were pushing the boundaries of the consoles they were released on.
And that's Kojima in a nutshell. He always wants to, if he's going to release a game, he always wants to push the boundary of that game. He's done it with everything that he's released. Like, it's always something very brand new.
Yeah, and with this remaster, I don't know, I have mixed feelings on this remaster because there was already a remaster released on PlayStation 3 that came with a digital download of Metal Gear, the original Metal Gear Solids on the, what was it, like the MSX PC or something, like back in the late 80s, early 90s.
Oh, wow.
Metal Gear did not start with Metal Gear Solid on PlayStation 1. There was like some old games that came out in the late 80s, early 90s. So it came with digital versions of those, a digital version of Metal Gear Solid on PlayStation 1 for your PlayStation 3, and then physically on the disc was Metal Gear Solid 2, 3. I want to say it also came with 4. Yeah. And it came with remasters of the PlayStation Portable, the PSP games. Mm-hmm. So it literally was, at the time, a definitive edition. Collection. It had everything. And I mean, the only bummer was that those very early games were digital only, but it is what it is. Anyway, yeah, it was a complete collection, and it was good. All the stuff was remastered. It ran well, had a high resolution, and then now, I think that these remasters these builds of these remasters are from that original PlayStation 3 release.
Okay.
Because they were already talking about it's still just going to be 720p, 30 frames per second, which that's what it was on those remasters on PlayStation 3, which lends me to believe that they're just porting forward those same remasters. And then they're splitting it into 2 separate games and selling it separately instead of as one giant collection. So really, if you have
kind of a bummer.
Yeah, if you have a PS3, I recommend hunting down that original collection, and then maybe getting a physical copy of Metal Gear Solid on PlayStation 1, because you can play PlayStation 1 games on your PlayStation 3. And then that
if you have the right PlayStation 3, I think there's only select PlayStation 3s that are completely backwards compatible.
With the PlayStation 2. But with PlayStation 1, all PlayStation 3s can play PlayStation 1.
Oh, really?
Discs. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is super cool. But anyway, so yeah, I'd recommend PlayStation 3 version collection if you got a PlayStation 3. If not, though, this is the next best thing. And man, yeah, pick it up anyway then if this is your only option, because 2 was amazing. I need to play through 3. And, yeah. Go, cat. What do you want? Go. No, go.
I just see a little kitten paw at the door trying to
she's like,
crawl out.
The door is halfway open. Or cracked open. She can get out if she wants to. And then she's looking at me. As soon as I open the door, she looks at me like, why'd you open the door? Cat logic, man.
Cats, man.
All right, what we got next on the agenda, man?
Yeah, so a little bit of I guess it was bummer news, but it kind of took a good turn. But kind of want to cover the full story about this, and feel free to jump in whenever, Mike. But the game engine Unity is changing its pricing model, and originally the developers were not happy. I'm sure they probably are still not exactly thrilled with everything, but yeah, I don't know what prompted these changes, but to start, Unity comes out basically saying that they are going to be doing these major overhauls with some price hikes, and it's gonna impact everything. It's gonna impact developers that have games currently. It's gonna impact developers that are creating games currently that haven't been released yet and they're using the engine, and then it's gonna impact developers creating games in the future. So, with that being said, developers very upset about this because they are in the middle of making games that have taken many years to create, and Unity comes and swoops in and says, "Hey, you know that game that you're making, the game you made, the game that you're going to release, like, we're actually going to take some more of the profit on that." And so, with that being said, it sparked a huge uproar from developers. And I don't know if you want to bring up the tweet from one of the developers that is from one of my favorite card-based games in Slay the Spire. They are a Mega Crit, and they released a public statement regarding all these changes from Unity, and essentially say, "The Mega Crit team has been hard at work these past 2+ years on a new game, but unlike with Slay the Spire, the engine we have been developing in it is Unity. The retroactive pricing structure of runtime fees is not only harmful in myriad of ways to developers, especially indies, it is also a violation of trust. We believe Unity is fully aware of this, seeing as they have gone so far as to remove the terms of service from GitHub. Despite the immense amount of time and effort our team has already poured into development and on our new title, we will be migrating to a new engine unless changes are completely reverted and terms of service protections are put in place." And then here's the best part. "We have never made a public statement before. This is how badly you fucked up." And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, I did think it was very unfair to people who were already working in that engine and already creating games, now having to adjust to these new regulations and new, pricing structure that Unity has brought forward. And it also impacted developers, as I said, that have released games already. So there is another article that I pulled with somebody taking a tweet from a game that we have talked about on the pod that Mike has played, Metal Hellsinger. Unfortunately came off Game Pass recently, but essentially they were saying on Twitter that's just a PSA to everyone saying, "Dear potential Metal Hellsinger players, remember we are a Unity game, which means get it while you can." And then and then somebody responded to him and goes, "You plan on pulling the game in light of the recent Unity BS?" And then one of the developers just goes, "We will see." Which is a bummer for developers that have worked really hard on really great indie titles that potentially have to pull a game that they have already created, they have already released. Just a real big bummer. So I think, obviously, Unity caught wind of all these developers being incredibly pissed off about everything that is going on. And so I'm not sure who is Mark Whitten. Is he the trying to think his role within the company? He is the president of Create, and he kind of did this open letter just saying that he's sorry and they're going to be reverting a lot of the changes that they originally said that they were going to implement, especially the ones impacting developers who are creating games right now with the Unity engine and games that have already been released that were developed with the Unity engine. And I don't know if Mike, you want to kind of go into the, I guess, the nitty gritty details. You might have a little bit better understanding than me.
Yeah, I'll start by reading through his letter. So he says, to
Yeah.
our community, I'm Mark Witten, and I lead Unity Create, which includes the Unity engine and editor teams. I want to start with this. I am sorry. We should have spoken with more of you, and we should have incorporated more of your feedback before announcing our new runtime fee policy. Our goal with this policy is to ensure we can continue to support you today and tomorrow and keep deeply investing in our game engine. You are what makes Unity great, and we know we need to listen. Yes, he does. I mean, speaking, no longer quoting him, but I'm saying, like, yeah, these developers are your customer, and you do have to make the customer happy.
Right.
So you are what makes Unity great, and we know we need to listen and work hard to earn your trust. We have heard your concerns, and we are making changes in the policy we announced to address them. Our Unity personal plan will remain free, and there will be no runtime fee for games built on Unity Personal. We will be increasing the We'll be increasing the cap from 100,000 to 200,000, and we will remove the requirement to use the Made with Unity splash screen. So basically, what he's saying here is, if you're using Unity Personal, which I'm kind of assuming this is like the free tier, it used to be that you could make up to $100,000 on your game before you had to start paying fees to Unity. They're going to raise that cap to 200,000, which is amazing, because if you're an indie developer of just like a small team of maybe one, two, three, or four people, that $200,000 will go a long way to cover the cost of making the game and let those people eat and have a home.
Yeah.
And the part with removing the requirement to use the Made with Unity splash screen, I mean, I never really saw a problem with that. It's like, yeah, if you're so many times you start up games and there's splash screens at the beginning, like Unreal Engine or using the Havoc physics engine or using Dolby Digital or whatever, like splash screens, that's nice, I guess, but they could have left that in there. I mean, that's free advertisement for them. I think that's a fair trade.
I don't think that was even like a part of the complaint that they had.
Yeah, I don't know who was complaining about that, but whatever. So anyway, back to his statement. No game with less than $1 million in trailing 12-month revenue will be subjected to the fee. For those creators on Unity Pro and Unity Enterprise, we are also making changes based on your feedback. The runtime fee policy will only apply beginning with the next long-term support version of Unity shipping in 2024 and beyond. Your games that are currently shipped and the projects you are currently working on will not be included. So this basically just solves all the issues that these developers were having during this initial announcement. So basically, any game that's already been released or any game that's in development on the current version of Unity Engine will not be subjected to this. It's just after the new version is released and games are developed on that new version, which is amazing. It's like
that's the main sentence, right? Or the main paragraph right there. That's what the people wanted to hear.
Yeah, this is like the perfect compromise. I mean, kudos to them. Is this project currently included? All right, so yeah, the runtime fee policy will only apply beginning with the next long-term service version of Unity, shipping in 2024 and beyond. Your games that are currently shipped and the projects you are currently working on will not be included unless you choose to upgrade them to this new version of Unity. We will make sure that you can stay on the terms applicable for the version of Unity editor you are using as long as you keep using that version. And again, this is great because, yeah, these people signed up with these initial terms of service and you're trying to pull the rug out from under them initially. So yeah, honoring that initial terms of service with these developers is amazing.
And that's exactly what MegaCrit said that they wanted. They said, hey, we signed on with these terms of service. You need to abide by them, and I'm glad they listened.
Yeah, so kudos to Unity for listening and addressing that. For games that are subject to the runtime fee, we are giving you a choice of either a 2.5% revenue share or the calculated amount based on the number of new people engaging with your game each month. Both of these numbers are self-reported from data you already have available. You will always be billed the lesser amount. We want to continue to build the best engine for creators. We truly love this industry, and you are the reason why. And then he goes on to invite them to a live chat to discuss things, and then links to an article that kind of breaks down this stuff even further. Mm-hmm. So anyway, great move on Unity. I mean, it's inevitable, man. I work for a software company. I've been in software development for going on 4 years now. And it is what it is. You got to make money. The cost of running the business is ever increasing. We see it with all these streaming services raising their prices, and you got to find a way to bring revenue in. And there's no clear-cut pricing model for software. It's not. It's different in the fact that it's not like a tangible goods. Like you go to the grocery store, you buy a pizza or you buy something from the grocery store. It's a one-time purchase. You consume it and you're done. Software acts differently. It continues to exist. It continues to evolve. And a lot of these software companies are moving to subscription-based models, and it's a whole different world that's still being figured out. And software companies grow at tremendous speeds, and you have to find a way to adjust your pricing model to sustain that growth and still cover your costs. Like this is now snowballed into a massive company, a software that is very flexible and offers a lot of things to a lot of people. Unity is not only used for game development, but it's used for making special effects in movies. It's used for production design stuff for like car manufacturers.
Right. But with everything going on, it seems now like indie developers can still go in, make games, make a living after releasing the game, and not having to be handicapped by these major fees that could really hurt their livelihood and make it so they may not want to release a game. So the more indies, the better is, I guess, the way I would like to put that. I want indie developers making games because there's so many good titles that have been released over the years that have turned into major sellers.
Yeah, and you never want to crush the indie developer. Like there needs to be an easy door into game development. And Unity has always been that. It's like me as like one game developer, or maybe me and just a couple of my friends want to make a game. There needs to be some way into the industry without having to go get a job at some major developer or some major publisher. And then that's the American dream. That's these people's opportunity to grow into something bigger, to make an amazing game that becomes a hit. And next thing you know, they're able to make something even bigger and grander beyond their wildest dreams, and really, tap into that.
Just take Megacrit for an example. They turned Slay the Spire. They released Slay the Spire, and then basically started an entire genre of games with these deck builders that Slay the Spire makes, and people just kept trying to copy them after that, and things like that don't happen unless any developers have these different ideas, create something, and then it spirals into something else. So
exactly,
you gotta keep it going.
Yeah, and then it changes the landscaping of games, like the landscape of games. But yeah, great ideas come from experimentation, and bigger companies are less likely to take these risks that an indie developer would. And
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, man, we rely on these indie developers and just imaginative new upcomers to just change the game of games.
I feel like the battle royale genre that is very popular now started with very small developers. The original battle royale was like an Arma 3 mod or something like that, and then I've played a lot of H1Z1 back in the day, and that was a very small indie developed team that created the first battle royale as well. So now look at battle royale today; it's in every single game.
Yep. And before there was Unity, game engine that anybody can hop into and get their feet wet for free, that used to be the way it was done. Modding. That if you wanted to create a game, you went in and wanted to learn how to make games, one place to start was often modding existing games that were kind enough to release mod tools. Yep. And also look at this on the flip side of things like this are the reason why many large publishers have their own in-house game engines and their own technology, because it gives them more control. You look at Ubisoft, they have their own in-house game engine tech.
Doesn't EA Games have like Frostbite's
Yep.
engine?
Yep, EA Games, a lot of these big publishers sometimes would have multiple game engines. EA, had the Frostbite engine, and then they had several other engines, and then they were making an initiative to focus solely on Frostbite and just make that be their main game engine that all their games are developed on. And other studios as well. I was reading up on the RE engine, which the Resident Evil engine for Capcom, which I don't actually think that's what the RE stands for. I think it stands for something else, although it's used for all the Resident Evil games, so I call it the Resident Evil engine. But anyway, it's an interesting history behind that. Capcom, every one of their development teams used to have different game engines. And then it was too complicated, it was too convoluted, and they're like, all right, well, if we can just have one game engine that we can focus energy and development on, then we can make that a flexible tool that all of our studios can use, and then it's easier to train people. So if you're jumping from one project to another, it's the same game engine, and when you get used to just one game engine, it then speeds up your ability to produce games and create assets. So
RE engine.
Go ahead.
Sorry. RE engine is also known as a Reach for the Moon engine.
Okay, I wonder if the RE comes from the RE in the word reach for the moon engine.
Yeah.
It's probably a play on words. It probably stands for that and the Resident Evil engine, because that's what it started out as.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so Capcom, that's their main engine going forward. They had another one, I can't remember what it's called, that most of their Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 games came out on prior to that. And then Bethesda has their id Tech. I don't know what version they're on, 4 or 5 engine now.
No idea, but playing Starfield right now, and it feels very much like a Bethesda game.
Yeah, and they have their own engine too. Bethesda has, not Bethesda, but whatever development studio is the one who makes Starfield. I know their publisher is Bethesda. Maybe the development studio is also called Bethesda. I don't know.
I think the development studio is also called Bethesda, but
anyway, yeah, that game engine. It's the same game engine on all the Fallout games, the Skyrim games, Starfield. It's just been obviously improved on, and they've released newer versions of the engine itself. But again, it's their own technology, it's their own engine, so they don't have to worry about Unity or Unreal coming in and just being like, hey, we need more licensing fees for using our engine. But then it's a trade-off, because then you have to continuously develop that engine and maintain it, which is a lot of effort, and it's a lot of money to have developers to spend on developers to maintain that engine. So some people look at it, it's like, let's just save the headache and just pay somebody else to do all that work, and then us just license their engine. So it's definitely a lot of considerations, and that's with a lot of things in software development. I will say we're already over time for this episode. So any closing words you have on the Unity situation?
No, I'm just happy that Unity released a statement, kind of backtracking some of those changes, and developers creating games now and that have already created these games that they have used the Unity engine for, get to be honored the terms of service that they agreed on before all these changes happened. So good for indie devs.
Yeah. Just out of curiosity, do you see the Unity engine splash screen a lot before the games you played?
I mean, maybe they let people take it out, because if I do see it, I don't really remember. But I feel like maybe yes, I have. But again, yeah, like I don't even think about it. When I'm booting a game, I'm just like tapping as fast as I can to get out of those screens. And so yeah, I don't know. If I do see it, I don't notice it. So maybe that's why they're like, we don't care about the splash screen. Nobody even notices it.
Yeah, maybe. All right, well, thanks everybody for tuning in and joining us. You can find all our episodes on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Also have some other social media presence. Where's that at, Mitch?
We sure do. We are at Twitter at The Hills Are Silent. Our Instagram is Instagram /Hills Are Silent. Our TikTok is at The Hills Are Silent Podcast. And our YouTube again is at The Hills Are Silent. If you have any questions, comments, game recommendations, anything at all, come to our email inbox at hillsaresilent@gmail.com. We will catch you on the next episode. Thanks, everyone.